All right, all eyes were on Minneapolis today as the trial of the former police officer accused in the death of George Floyd got underway. The video of the incident showing Derek Chauvin forcibly kneeling on Floyd's neck was played in the courtroom. The prosecution will lean on video evidence throughout the trial to express to the jury that Chauvin's actions were intentional. Prosecutor Jerry Blackwell made this clear in his opening remarks.
929. The three most important numbers in the case, 9 minutes and 29 seconds, is how long that went on. For half of that time, Mr. Floyd was unconscious, breathless, pulseless.
Floyd's death sparked widespread protests against police brutality and racism in the U.S. and in cities around the world. Joining us now to discuss this is Bloomberg government legislative analyst Adam Taylor. Adam, thanks for being here. I know you've been following this trial all day. From these opening statements, what can you tell me about the prosecution strategy for arguing this case?
They're leaning hard into video. One of the few witnesses they got to today was really there to show a bystander video from across the street and introduce the various bystanders that are going to be in, and also gave them a chance to show the video from her point of view. They showed the more famous bystander video that really spread the word about this incident during the opening statements. But they're not just relying on video. They have a laundry list of witnesses that range from the police chief of the Minneapolis police, Madaria Arradondo, to the head of the medical examiner's office. They're going to have medical experts, police use of force experts, bystanders from the scene, and more. They're not just leaning on the video, but it's obviously going to play a very big part in their case.
Right, and you mentioned the medical examiner getting brought in, so I want to talk about the autopsies. I know that we're dealing with two in the case. How could these autopsies affect the outcome here?
So the first one by the Hennepin County medical examiner listed the cause of death as something other than homicide and not a traumatic asphyxiation, which a lot of lay people interpreted as meaning that Derek Chauvin did not cause George Floyd's death. So there was actually a second medical examiner, a private one, who was contracted by the Floyd family, whose report was also released and will be a part of this case. And that one did say homicide. And I think there's less daylight between the two than you might think, but because they use different language, it gives an opportunity to the defense to basically accuse the state of forum shopping in their medical examiner.
So just to be clear, was that first autopsy also ruled a homicide?
I think it didn't get into the exact cause because it's not a legal document, it's the medical opinions. And so it looked for, it looked at the body and did not, as far as I understand, did not assign a cause in that sense.
And looking at the defense strategy overall, I know they're going to have to combat this video evidence. What is their kind of plan for that?
They're kind of using the prosecution's stack of witnesses against them in almost a judo maneuver, where they're saying there's a lot more to this than the video. There were 400 witnesses on an initial witness list that the jurors had to scan through to make sure they didn't have any conflicts with or knowledge of any of them. And so they're going to try to say there's a lot more than the video. You have to look much more broadly. And we saw that when the first witness with her video was questioned on cross-examination. Eric Nelson, Derek Chauvin's attorney, pointed out that there was a lot happening outside of the frame that she could see, but that weren't conveyed on the camera. So he's going to try to do that. And his main 2 points he's going to try to make is that there's more going on than the chokehold within George Floyd's body. So he's going to try to introduce reasonable doubt that is what killed him. And he's going to introduce a lot about police policy and training. And his big argument is that Derek Chauvin did what 19 years of training taught him to do in this case. So he wasn't out of line in doing what he did.
And there are several charges here in this case. What could the potential effect of that be? And could the jury consider, one charge over others? And how do you think that will affect the outcome of the case?
Yeah, so there's second-degree murder. That's the big one. that carries a maximum sentence of 40 years, and it's probably the hardest to prove. At the other end of the spectrum, there's a manslaughter charge that's much easier for the state to prove, but it has a lower penalty. There was a lot of debate and motions and argument about the murder 3, the third-degree murder charge, that was actually the first one to be papered in this case, but then Judge Cahill took it off before the Minnesota Supreme Court kind of changed the interpretation around murder 3, and the state successfully petitioned to get it added back on, which is kind of a middle ground. It gives the jury somewhere between murder 2 and manslaughter to land. So that definitely helps the prosecution get a win. Whether it doesn't really affect whether they get all the charges to stick or not, but it does give the jury more options if they want to find a guilty verdict.
Bloomberg government legislative analyst Adam Taylor, thank you for joining us today.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.